ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. Happy Thursday to you all. It is one of those days where you went from really good to really bad as far as if you're in one particular part of the country this evening, or I guess today. It's evening on the coast. The news broke earlier this afternoon, and it's only 4 o'clock here on the West Coast. So I guess without further ado or any more delay, let's just dive right into it with today's headlines. And the headlines are from World Series champions to now the injured reserve. Deshaun Watson suffered a torn ACL non-contact injury during practice today. He is done for the season. And man, it's just, that's life, right? Like you can't even get more real than that. Less than 24 hours. A city that has suffered unimaginable hardship and adversity this year with Hurricane Harvey and everything that went on there. They were World Series champions last night. They were the champions of the baseball world. And they still are. Like, until next season, they are. They get to be the champions all the way until we crown a new one next season. But you go from that, Game 7 of probably one of the best World Series that we've seen in recent memory, okay? Of a possible 7 games, they go the distance, all 7. And now, the next day, their rising star quarterback, who everyone thought was going to take them to the postseason and maybe then some, maybe the promised land in football as well, the Super Bowl. And he's done. And I'm not laughing because I think that that's funny. I'm not laughing at someone's misfortune. It's just like, they talk about going from 0 to 60. Houston just went from like 120 to just dead stop. I mean, wow. So my heart goes out to Houston as well as Deshaun Watson because, in all honesty, the Texans were my sleeper pick to possibly go to the Super Bowl for the reason that I don't think they are going to be the Super Bowl now after the Astros won the World Series. So hear me out on this theory. Anytime there's some sort of monumental, I don't know if that's the right word, but any sort of serious thing that happens in a city, the city pulls together, and it's usually through the world of sports. They go and they rally the city together, they bring them together, and they pull off something that nobody thought they would. We saw New Orleans do it with Hurricane Katrina, right, in New Orleans. The Saints won the Super Bowl for the first and only time after that terrible time for Louisiana. We've seen America do it. The Patriots, who maybe are not America's team, but they went and won the Super Bowl after 9/11, right? The Patriots win the Super Bowl after 9/11 to rally them. We've seen cities do this before. They get behind their team, and they push and push and push. The Golden Knights in Las Vegas, right? The new expansion team in the NHL, off to one of the hottest starts, if not the hottest start, that an expansion team has ever been off to. I think they're 8-2 right now. That's crazy. 8-3. I think the St. Louis Blues are 10-2 right now, if I recall my records correctly. But this is what happens in sports. People rally, and now there's this divine intervention happening. And so when the NFL season started, because the baseball season was so far into it, and I don't really follow baseball, I didn't know what was going on over on that end. I thought we were looking at like Cubs-Yankees or the Dodgers and the Indians or some combination like that, right? The Astros weren't even on my radar. But here comes Houston, and I said before the NFL season started, I said it may not look like it now, but don't count Houston out because this is a team playing for a city. And then Watson breaks onto the scene. He gets into a quarterback's duel with Russell Wilson, and you're like, yep, I can see that now. But then the Astros go and win the World Series last night, and now the next day their star quarterback is out. It's almost as if God is just like, you get one. I'm sorry, I can't do both. You get one. And it blows my mind that these kinds of things happen in sports the way that they do. I also think that the universe is basically daring the NFL to bring Colin Kaepernick back. Some of you may have saw my tweet from probably about an hour or so ago when the Watson news broke. You only get so many times that you can like kind of brush it off that, well, wouldn't have been a good fit for him. But now we've seen so many star quarterbacks on teams that are contenders. We're not talking about, when a quarterback goes down on a less than stellar team. Okay, we're not talking about if Josh McCown were to get hurt on the Jets. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how Tannehill was done before the season started and Miami was in the playoffs last year, and they were poised to possibly make another run this year. Out. They signed Cutler. Adam Gase and him have a relationship. Okay, he was going to retire. He kind of did. Was going to go into broadcasting. Now he's not. One more round. And so that one makes a little sense, okay? You're not going to sign Kaepernick there because Gase doesn't have a relationship with him. He has one with Cutler. Then you have guys like Carr and Mariota that get hurt for undisclosed amounts of time. They were back sooner than they were supposed to be, but you're like, okay, so you've got a quarterback that's hurt and your team's a contender. Again, the Raiders, they were in the playoffs last year, and they looked pretty hot up until Carr got hurt in those first two games. And with the Titans, they weren't in the playoffs last year, but they were the ones that everyone thought was going to make that push, turn that corner this season, and Mariota gets hurt. So you're looking at these two teams, okay, who are they going to sign? Well, with Oakland, they kind of already had their guys there. And then with Tennessee, though, they went and brought on Brandon Weeden. And I know that Tennessee is a red state, and politics, whatever. But that's what landed them on the list of fan shows, the fact that of all the quarterbacks out there, you decide, okay, hey, let's bring on Brandon Weeden. Really? So then that's when it really started. The whole, okay, Kaepernick is obviously being blackballed. Now, I think he would be mediocre at best. Everybody says this is a guy who took his team to the Super Bowl in his first start as a quarterback. No, not really, because Alex Smith got them half that season, right? And then he got hurt with a concussion, enter Kaepernick, and then they got to the Super Bowl, and they lost the Super Bowl because he can't read a defense, and he made the same throw 3 times in a row. Back corner of the end zone fade to Crabtree, right? We remember that one because the next year he did the same damn thing in Seattle in the NFC Championship game. They had one of the best defenses going into that season, a stellar offensive line, and yeah, Harbaugh and Alex Smith got them through the first half of the season with a winning record, one of the best winning records. The year before, Alex Smith actually led them to a win over the New Orleans Saints, something that people did not think was possible against the Saints with how hot they were that year too. So I don't want to hear this, well, he did take a team to the Super Bowl. No, because he didn't. Okay, as a 49ers fan, I can tell you that it wasn't just him. If it was just him, we'd be having an entirely different conversation. So I think he'd be mediocre at best. Nonetheless, here we are. And then you had Palmer get hurt, right? Now, I'm not going to say that they were a decent team, but when they got AP, now all of a sudden they look like they could bounce back because they were still sitting around that 500 early enough in the season where you could probably sneak in with a 9-7, 10-6 record. Very possible, very doable for that squad. But they don't do that. They're going to go with Drew Stanton. Colin Kaepernick hasn't even been brought up. Aaron Rodgers, done for the season. Would he work in Green Bay? I don't know. But Brett Hundley is their guy. And so now Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson goes down. And boy, oh boy, oh boy. The team with the owner, the old white guy, which what do you expect him to say other than like age-old sayings and then get the wording wrong? Probably not looking to add another inmate to his prison. So Matt McGloin it is. And some of you saw my Periscope from earlier previewing tonight's episode that, the short week doesn't help, but people will still use this as fuel to their Kaepernick fire. And that's fine. But I asked the question last week. I'll ask it again. you guys can weigh in. Tweet me at FanShowOfficial. Of course, you can comment or message me on the Facebook page, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, or jump on the chat here on Spreaker.com where I'm broadcasting to you live from. You can also listen live on thefanshow.com. Click on Listen Live. But if Kaepernick gets signed and he starts and he's mediocre at best, what happens then? I think that's a great question. So tonight we have the Bills are in New York or New Jersey to take on the Jets. I believe the Bills will win that. But I do have a great guest lined up for this evening. He's going to come up probably in about 5 minutes here. Philip Robinson III, member of the NFL media for the Raiders. So we're going to have a good conversation. We'll do some fan versus fan show pick'em like we do every Thursday here on the Fan Show. But congratulations to the Houston Astros, World Series champions of the baseball world. Other than Game 7, we really couldn't have asked for a better series. And as a person who doesn't follow baseball, I trust my baseball friends when they tell me, yeah, this was a hell of a series. So congratulations to them. Sorry for the Houston Texans, because today's question of the day, and there's been a couple of questions of the day that I've had, and basically it got kind of put on the back burner because of everything else that was happening. But the first one was, of these teams, because you only get 4 options on Twitter, right? Of these teams that are currently in the playoff picture, which one is most likely to miss the playoffs completely? And I believe the options were like the Seahawks, the Vikings. It was 3 NFC, 1 AFC team, the Titans, and then the Saints. And I want to say that the Titans were the ones that were leading the pack. And then today's question, let's go ahead and check it out. Give me a second here. Okay, so today's question was, of the teams not currently in the playoff picture, who has the best chance at making them? The Texans, the Cowboys, the Panthers, the Falcons. You can bet your sweet butt that when this tweet first went out, which was just before the Watson news broke, that the Texans were leading the pack. They still are, but that percentage has dropped dramatically. It sits at 39, Cowboys in second at 29, Falcons in third at 22%, and then the Panthers rounding out the bottom at 10%. So, of these teams not currently in the playoff picture, who has the best chance of making it? Go ahead and go and vote. I have retweeted it. Should be at the top of my Twitter. That is not a pinned tweet, so go and check that one out. And let's go ahead and check in on the last one. Okay, so of these current division leaders, that's how I worded it, who is most likely to miss the playoffs entirely? Titans, Saints, Seahawks, and Vikings. And 52%, your winner, the Titans. And I think that's because a lot of people thought that the Texans were probably going to come from behind and take it from them. So that will bring us to the portion of the show where I welcome my first guest. So I've got a quick commercial break to go to. Don't forget to check out mybookie.ag. They are the world leader in online gambling and betting, where you bet matters. And right now it is the holiday season, and they've got some holiday specials for you. So go and check out mybookie.ag today. There's a promo code that I've got for you for when you register, and that, of course, is the Fan Show, and they are going to give you up to a 50% bonus when you sign up. You don't even have to make bets as far as winners, losers, for or against the spread or the side or the line or whatever it is when it comes to the games. You can play blackjack or craps if you'd like to do that as well. So mybookie.ag, they're built on the 3 R's: reliability, reputation, and really fast payouts. They have that reliability because of their reputation. They're who I trust, so why shouldn't you? So I strongly recommend the folks at mybookie.ag go and sign up today. Play, win, and score some holiday cash just in time to get that brand new, biggest set ever Lego Millennium Falcon. All right, for those of you that have put me on your Christmas list, I thank you for that. That's the only thing I want, other than Foo Fighter tickets for... Well, no, that would be too late. For my birthday, which is now less than a month away, my birthday is December 1st. If you'd like to get me something, the Foo Fighters are here in Spokane on December 4th. That's right, 3 days after my birthday. So, if you'd like to get me a gift, I strongly encourage you to check out Ticketmaster, Tickets West. and get me some Foo Fighters tickets. I would love those. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of The Fan Show after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw. That Scott hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns, 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten.
You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside the house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. Here, listen to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellect, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer painting and pressure washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer painting and pressure washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer painting and pressure washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me now is a member of the Raiders media for the NFL. It is Philip Robinson III. Do you go by Esquire or just Philip Robinson III?
I haven't added the Esquire yet, but I like the sound of that. Either or works for me. Like the title of distinction.
Oh, yes, very distinct. I mean, you have to have the pinky out when you drink anything, but still, I think that's a small price to pay for the Esquire.
Yes, with my tea bags.
Well, welcome to the show, sir. You are a member of NFL media for the Raiders, and actually we were going to talk about that here in a little bit. But the breaking news today, we've seen it, we've talked about it, Deshaun Watson of the Texans, and of course Houston went from the highest of highs to now a pretty bad low with that, because, these teams that are in cities that suffer such just horrible events, and they tend to get the city to rally behind them. Well, we saw that with the Astros, and maybe you only get one a year, but now the Texans will have to rely on quarterback Tom Savage. Your thoughts when you heard the news today that Watson was out for the year?
That robs football fans of good football. Just watching him play has just been magical. He's revitalized the Texans. Sitting back last year and watching Brock Osweiler, you just think, man, with as good as the Texans defense is and as good and the weapons that they have, if they just had a quarterback who was actually the guy that they brought in to be, they could really be something. And then once Savage went down, he got benched, and they put in Watson. The kid showed up and hasn't looked back, and Houston took off. And to hear that he tore his ACL in practice is heartbreaking.
Yeah, I really do think that that's probably the best way that I've heard it put so far today, is that the NFL fans have been robbed of great quarterback play and great football by Houston, because we just saw a quarterbacks duel between him and Russell Wilson in Seattle, and that doesn't happen a lot, and it was probably one of the top 3 picks as far as games we've seen so far this season as potential rematches for the Super Bowl. The other one being, of course, the Chiefs and the Eagles, and then you could maybe put one, I don't know, the Patriots and the Saints, but this one had everything that a fan wanted in it, and now we will obviously not get that. In fact, we won't see Watson until next year, and we wish him a speedy recovery. But man, yeah, we got robbed on this one today.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, man, because I'm not a Texans fan by any stretch, but I enjoy watching him. I loved watching him come back to beat Bama in the national championship. I mean, we all know his story. It's a good dude. Bad things happening to a good dude who was balling, and it sucks. But it's football. It happens.
Yeah. So the Texans now back to the drawing board. Still, surprisingly, a winnable division. Jacksonville's getting it done with their defense. Tennessee is kind of hit or miss, but they're all lingering around that 500 mark. And I think a lot of people, if you asked, they wouldn't know that Houston was not the division leader there, because they had all the symptoms of a team that's the top of their division sitting pretty and now has all this room to fall. But really, they were poising themselves to make the climb out of the hole that they had put themselves in. So around the rest of the NFL, it is that point in the season where if a team is in the gray area, they need to get themselves out of it, and out of it now. One of those teams, I believe, is your Oakland Raiders. What's the biggest problem that you see for the Raider Nation right now?
The biggest problem that I see is that the offense is not on the same page. You see receivers in bunches in the same areas. You see your quarterback, there's questions on how long he's holding on to the football. Much is made about his snap to release is 2.18 seconds, and that's lightning fast. But do you really need your quarterback getting rid of the football that fast? Is he giving your offense the best chance for success when he's throwing the football as soon as he gets to the top of a 3-step drop? Well, there's questions about that so far. You would say no because of the 3-5 record, but as a whole, it's a lot of guys that aren't making the plays that they made last year. It's a difference in system with the new offensive coordinator, and it's a sad day for Raider Nation when you start missing Bill Musgrave, but that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah, and this team started out so hot, too, especially when they played the Jets, who the Jets are actually like a respectable team right now. They will play tonight against division rival the Buffalo Bills, and even that has some predictors split 50-50 on who could win. But they bring Lynch out of retirement. It doesn't seem like they've utilized him very well. Of course, he made that mistake touching the referee, got suspended for it. He will be back this week. Do you think he could be the key to the Raiders and in turning this season around, or does it go a bit deeper than that?
Well, why not? Let's go. You get an exclusive. How I really feel about that is this. I feel that the switch, in order to accommodate him, I believe that they should have ran power with the fullback and lined him behind Olawale and just continued to run power, which is what they were excelling at. But since Lynch's arrival, they have implemented more zone blocking schemes than they have ran previously before, and every coach who's brought the zone blocking scheme to Oakland has failed miserably in the run game. And what you're seeing is the same thing. History repeats itself over and over again. The linemen are just too big to be running sideways. They need to be attacking linemen. And until you start, and when you start with that base at the line and having them do something different than what made them all Pro Bowlers, that's where you start. Gabe Jackson is hurt. He now has a boot on his foot, but I believe that he's been playing injured for quite some time now because his play has been subpar to say the least. And that's not like him. And everything is, kind of having a trickle-down effect. Well, Carr's not having the same confidence in the line. The running backs aren't quite hitting the holes that they should be, even when they're big gaping holes in front of them. Little things as Carr's taking the saying, but they all add up and they bring you to the current problem where you're sitting 3-5 with offensive question marks.
Yeah, and of course, the Chiefs went on a 2-game skid, the start of which was against the Raiders in that close one there where it seemed like they had 10 minutes of no time left. And then they lost another one against the Steelers, who is another AFC favorite as far as the postseason goes. But now they're back in the win column. They had won their first 5. They were the last undefeated team, so they're still sitting pretty atop not just the West, but also one of the best records on the AFC side. So it looks like unless they lose a star quarterback or a star player, that it would be wild card at best for the Raiders. And right now, that is very doable. There's not a whole lot of teams on the AFC side, especially not 2 of them, that could take the wild card spot from them. I mean, the Broncos are kind of a mess. I don't know what to make of the Chargers just yet. And then the Jets, I guess we'll see after tonight, because the Bills said they could maybe win the AFC East. Now, that's a stretch because the Patriots are there. But as far as the North, I don't see the Bengals or Ravens really making any noise. And then in the South, with the loss to Watson, it's going to either be the Titans or the Jaguars. I don't feel like 2 teams are going to come out of that division. So if they were to secure a wild card spot, would it be one and done for them, or would you believe that they have earned their way into the playoff and then could make a serious run into the postseason at that point?
Well, if you consider the teams that they have to beat in order to make it to the wild card, you're talking about you got to go through Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, New England, Miami coming up. Just all of those teams. That's 5 teams right there that they're currently looking up at.
Yeah.
In terms of, yes, I agree with you. I don't see anybody challenging Pittsburgh for the North Division. And actually, the Bills are a lot closer to winning that division than you would want to think. With the addition of Kelvin Benjamin, that's another weapon for Tyrod Taylor to go at that defense. And I'm not 100% sold that the Patriots are there where they need to be to make a deep run. They have a lot of defensive issues, and I mean a lot. And they have not looked as invincible on offense as they have. All those years of postseason play are starting to take their toll, and they're slowing down, and they're getting hurt, and they're having some and they're having issues. And I really think that it's time for some new blood. When in terms of Kansas City is up there. They got some holes on defense, but as long as they stay healthy on offense, I don't see them incurring any issues. Alex Smith is playing out of his mind, the best football he's ever played.
Yeah. So let's real quick, let's get your thoughts on a couple of questions that I had on Twitter recently. The first one, of these current division leaders, who is most likely to miss the playoffs entirely? The Titans, the Saints, the Seahawks, and the Vikings. And all of those teams came from a division where the second in line is either tied with the same record or a game behind in either the win or the loss category. Who would you pick out of those 4?
I'd have to pick the Titans because I didn't even know they were in first place. I thought they were tied with Jacksonville. So the fact that you said it was them, I was like, well, that was easy.
Which is so surprising. That is the majority vote right now. And the Titans, though, I feel like if it comes down to them in Jacksonville later in this season where the winner moves on, you almost want to put money on Tennessee because they have it going on both sides of the football. I don't know how Jacksonville, with defense alone, and then, of course, Leonard Fournette, has gotten as many wins as it has, but you can't really expect to do that forever unless you're the 2000 Ravens or the 2015 Broncos. But, I mean, it has been done before. I just have a hard time biting on the idea of this next one being the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm here to tell you that if you look on the talent on paper, it's not as bad. That's not as far off as you think it is. That on on paper, that defensive talent is amazing, considering in terms of man-to-man pass coverage and frontline pass rush. They got everything you could want and more in terms of defense. But Blake, as long as Blake Bortles is your quarterback, you got problems. There's really no other way to say it. I mean, I could try to dress it up for you, but as long as Blake Bortles is back there, if you're not handing the ball to Fournette, then it's a crapshoot on what's happening. I mean, from what I've heard, wide receivers have been ready to fight him because they won't get a pass anywhere near him.
Yeah, problems in Jacksonville there on the offensive side. So as long as your defense is out on the field, you got a good chance of winning that ball game. The other question was, of these teams not currently in the playoff picture, which one has the best chance of making them? And of course, this was tweeted out today before the Watson news broke. So obviously the choices are the Texans, the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Falcons. The Cowboys have shifted to the leader of that vote now. It was the Texans for a while there.
I would say, I'd say whoever said that was out of their minds. The Cowboys aren't catching Philly. Even if they win both head-to-heads, they're not catching Philly. I would probably say, who were the other two? Obviously, it's not the Texans. Who was my last option?
Panthers and Falcons, both out of the NFC South there.
I'd go with the Falcons because the Panthers are a mess, and the AFC South is another one of those looking like one of those divisions that nobody wants to win.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one. The Saints currently lead the South, and who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? So before we get to our Pick'em segment for the day, you are also a big WWE fan. We've got Survivor Series coming up, which is the SmackDown versus Raw pay-per-view. Basically, it's bragging rights 2.0. But the big one, Jinder Mahal and Brock Lesnar. Is this even something that's going to be worth tuning into with that as the headliner?
You know, I will say one thing that they have done with Jinder is the creative use that they've had for him. Because no matter what, throughout his career, Jinder has been a jobber, and now all of a sudden he's the man. And how's he getting through matches? How's he keeping his title? Using his brain. At the end of the match, he's got something cooked up his sleeve. I just don't think he has anything for Brock, but he wouldn't be in the main event if he didn't, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Some people think there's a theory going around that the title is going to change hands just before Survivor Series, and that all of this will have been almost for nothing, but they're doing weird stuff over on SmackDown Live because the Rusev and AJ Styles match has since been called off because he gets a match against Jinder Mahal now. So that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their creative team is doing a lot of interesting things, and some of them are good, and a lot of them have kind of been really stale, to be honest with you. Just some old recycled stuff, and they really need to start looking into expanding what they're doing and how they're using their talent, and to get something different. You know, I like to see a dominant champion, not always one who's using crook and subterfuge to keep his belt.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, I think probably now for the year-long run that Braun's made, the WWE has cheated us of a proper Braun and Brock match. I honestly, it's a debate on, do I want to see him go Hell in a Cell? Do I want to see him go 60 minutes? Or maybe we should see him go 60 minutes in Hell in a Cell. That would be fantastic.
I do think that a match between those two needs to be more than just a one-on-one. I would personally love the idea of seeing a last man standing match or a 16-minute Iron Man match between those two. So solid ideas there. Now, Survivor Series tends to be that pay-per-view that kind of starts to plant the seeds for the storylines that we see make their way all the way up to WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble being the one in between, where if they haven't caught yet, they'll either change them drastically or if they've been sort of leading to them subtly, they'll kind of pow right in the face like this is what's happening. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on Survivor Series, especially with both brands taking part in that pay-per-view. But you look over at Raw, and Lesnar is the definition of a part-timer. He only shows up half the time, and then he only defends his title once every 3 months. Who would you like to see him lose his title to, and when?
I'd love to see him lose his title to Braun at WrestleMania.
Now, that is a match right there. I will give you that one. On the other side, then, the blue brand, who would you like to see Jinder lose it to, and where?
I say as much as I'd like to see, I want to see him lose it to Shinsuke. I've been a big Nakamura fan since coming on to him in NXT. And just his following, his whole little entrance and whatnot, I feel it. What can I say? I like it. And I've seen AJ Styles, and I think that Shinsuke and Styles can have great matches and a great rivalry. Same thing with Owens and whatnot. But we've seen pretty much everybody that they're going to trot out and make the champion. Maybe it's time for some new blood. You brought these guys up all through the NXT system. Let them do their thing. Let them show you what they're about.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus right now, is that they get the heat from fans to bring these guys up from NXT, and then once they do, they kind of just linger there in the middle forever and ever. Like, they'll push a guy like they did with Shinsuke right up to the top, and now they've sort of knocked him back down. But I would like to see another great AJ Styles title run, because I do think that he is the best in-ring performer that they have really on either roster right now. I think The Miz deserves a title run just because he's been one of the best heels that they've had in the last decade. So the future hopefully looks bright for WWE. John Cena, though, he's not done with WWE. He's just never going to be a full-timer again. He's pretty much reached his legend status where, like Jericho, The Undertaker, The Rock, and so many others, he'll be there on a conditional basis. It'll be for some big-time matches, but more than likely never again for a title, and you won't see him frequent Raw and or SmackDown. So that was sort of what No Mercy represented.
Right.
Which, I'm indifferent about it. He makes other guys look so good, and he's definitely a polarizing figure in the world of wrestling. There's not a lot of people that do it quite as good as John Cena. I think The Rock was another one, which is why their feud for 2 years worked out so well together. But, when you lose guys like Shawn Michaels, when Triple H starts doing more stuff behind the scenes, and The Undertaker is out, your last guy, your last line of defense is kind of John Cena, and naturally you're going to have to usher in somebody new. I don't agree with it being Roman Reigns. I personally would like to see it be somebody else that not only the crowd can get behind, but that I feel is a great in-ring talent, and I think that guy is AJ Styles.
Yeah, definitely need to pump him.
Yeah, and
I actually think they need to do a lot. I think they should actually add a tag team division to the cruiserweights and pump the cruiserweights a lot more than they do. That's been some entertaining matches to watch.
Yeah, it really has been, and so is the women's division, which I hope they get maybe tag team titles sometime before Mania added to that division. That would be, I think, a great utilization of the full rosters of both of those that they have on each show.
No doubt.
All right, so with that then, we could probably talk more wrestling as we get closer to Survivor Series, but it's that time of the show where we do Pick'em fan versus fan show. I'm doing miserable this year. I'm 1-7 against my guess, but we're going to do our pick winners and losers for the best 5 games of the week. And the first one is going to be the Atlanta Falcons against the Carolina Panthers, a divisional matchup. Atlanta needs to win. Carolina needs to win. Who do you like in this one, Mr. Robinson?
Can I vote for neither?
Unless it ends in a tie.
Yes, I've had some rather poignant comments about Sark in another show I did. I'd still have to go with Atlanta in this one because overall they just have more talent than the Panthers do.
Yeah, and I will agree with you on that one. I like Atlanta as well. I think that, the Panthers, they're a good team. I don't know why they shipped off Benjamin, and I'm not going to say that changes a whole lot, but I do think that the Falcons, when it comes to wanting something more, with the exception of last year's Super Bowl, they have a tendency to rise to the occasion. I mean, both of these teams have failed miserably in back-to-back Super Bowls when the time called, so it'll be interesting to see them go against each other for a much-needed win. The next one, then, is the Tampa Bay versus New Orleans, that same division. But again, Tampa Bay has not been what they started off as, and New Orleans is owning that division right now. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to have to go with New Orleans. New Orleans has been showing the resolve of champion, I guess, in this hapless division. And for some reason, I don't understand what it is, because Tampa Bay has all the talent in the world and just can't put it together.
Yeah, that's very true, and I like them as well, the New Orleans Saints. It's at home in the Dome. Could be a kind of trap game. You never know with division games, but I'm just not buying what Tampa Bay is selling, so I'll go Saints 2 on that one. Next one, Washington Redskins against the Seattle Seahawks, and this is a very much needed win for the Redskins if they can get it. Seattle is tied for first in their division, so they'd like to get a win on this day as well. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I like Seattle. Washington is leaking oil, and as well as they beat up on my Raiders, they have not looked as good since. And Seattle looked great against the Texans, and they've been playing great. And with some help on the offensive line, that should give Russell Wilson even more time to scour the defense and choose his matchups that he wishes to exploit.
Yeah, in this one, I'm actually going to go with Washington. Call me crazy, but they have a tendency in these tougher games to sort of come out in the end and get them. Now, I know that they didn't do that against the Cowboys, but that's a divisional opponent. But they do travel well, so we'll see if they can go into Seattle and get that win. The next game, then, is a good one. This is, of course, between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. Your thoughts on this interconference matchup?
The Cowboys should win this game because they have their offense is set up to exploit the weaknesses that the Chiefs have on defense.
Okay. Even without Zeke Elliott, they'll do it with Morris or McFadden?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
Because the offensive line is still far superior than the Chiefs' defensive up front.
Yeah, and I like the offensive line of both teams. In fact, during preseason, I said that I firmly believe the Chiefs have probably one of the top 3 offensive lines, maybe even a better one than the Cowboys. I think this is going to come down to who can execute the running attack better, and I think that will be the Chiefs on the road in Arlington, the first game without Zeke Elliott, and I think they're going to feel that one. So the last one for us to pick here is going to be Monday Night Football, Detroit versus Green Bay. Now, normally this one, because of the injury to Rodgers, wouldn't bleep that hard on a radar, but we are talking about a divisional game. The Lions were in the red zone so many times, could not get it into the end zone when they needed to against the Steelers, and the Packers have had a week now to work with Hundley, and we'll see what they've got. But your feelings on the Monday night matchup between the two teams from the North?
That's a tough one because the Lions' offense has been woefully underwhelming. I'm gonna go with the Lions anyway because I just don't have faith in Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers. If Stafford is to go out there and get a lead, I just don't feel like Green Bay can come from behind with Hundley.
Yeah, it's in Lambeau, though, and I feel like there's just special things that happen at Lambeau, and with the struggles that the Lions have had, I mean, this is a team that for the second year in a row now, that division has been practically theirs for the taking, and they've failed to do so. They collapsed at the end of last season, and now they can't seem to win while the Packers are without Rodgers and the Vikings do their rotation of quarterbacks. So I'm actually going to go with Green Bay on this one at home, Monday Night Football, but I think it'll be a decent game. I think the extra time that they've had with Hundley will see a more efficient offense, but between both of these teams and their struggles lately, I don't know how high of a scoring affair this will be, but I'm going to have to give the nod to the home Packers there. So that's our pick-em for this week between me and Philip Robinson III, Esquire. And, sir, it's been a lot of fun having you here on the show. How is it being a member of the NFL media for the Raiders?
Well, I'm just a member of the NFL media. I haven't been granted team credentials as of yet. Still waiting on those. But it's hectic. It's a lot of fun. I honestly wouldn't want to do anything else because I wouldn't have time to do it. It's a constant grind to stay on top of everything NFL and the football team. But like I said, I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
All right, well, sir, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Great conversation. I'm glad that we can talk more than just football, but I'm going to have probably a round-table conversation the week of Survivor Series, and I'll invite a few guests on for that, so if you'd like to partake, by all means. But anytime you want to talk some football and a little bit of nonsense the rest of the season, you just let me know, and I'll make sure that we get you worked into the queue and get you on again. But thank you so much.
No problem, Rich. Take it easy, and I look forward to doing it again. I definitely want to sit in on the Survivor Series panel.
All right, sounds good, my friend. You take care. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right.
That was Philip Robinson Jr. III, Esquire. He's probably a knight, too. I don't know. But Philip Robinson III, you can check him out on Twitter. He's a great guy. In fact, we started following each other, talking back and forth, had a great conversation through Twitter Messenger for like an hour or two, just talking football and wrestling. So great guy. Strongly recommend. He is at Phil Robinson NFL. That is how you can follow him. He is the co-host of By Any Means, that podcast, the Fast Break Show, and P.S. You're Wrong Show. So he's a man of many talents. Go and hit him up for any Raiders, wrestling, or all things football and nonsense conversation. We'll look forward to having him on the show again real soon. So we're going to do one more quick commercial break, and then we're going to wrap this thing up and bring it home on this Thursday edition of The Fan Show. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo. Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again. So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right? Yeah. And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I wanted to thank you all for tuning in this week. It's been a great week here on The Fan Show, and don't forget, if you have missed any of this week's episodes, there are so many ways to listen. I'll go over all of those here in just a second, but don't forget to check out mybookie.ag, the world leader in online betting and gambling, where you bet matters. It's the holiday season. Baseball wrapped up, but you still got hockey, football, and basketball now. You can bet on any and all. Your team doesn't even have to win. They could just cover the spread. You could do the win-win situation where you bet against your team, but if your team wins and you lose, then at least your team still won, or if your team loses, then you win, and now you have some cash. But it is the time to start hoarding your cash and getting ready for Christmas, because it's going to sneak up on you, and all of a sudden you're going to be that guy that needs to get like a Nintendo Switch or whatever, and they're all sold out, and some guy on Craigslist who wants to meet you in a dark alley is price gouging you for like 30 times what the actual price should be. Don't shop on Craigslist like that. Just don't. Meet somewhere very public if you're going to buy something from someone on Craigslist. Like, we're talking extremely public, like a mall or a restaurant. That way, no funny business, okay? So shop safely. But as I mentioned, they are the most reliable online betting site. Go to mybookie.ag today. Enter promo code TheFanShow. They will give you up to a 50% bonus for what you deposit, and that can go to playing all their online games and doing their betting as well. So MyBookie, you play, you win, you score. Now, the ways that you can enjoy The Fan Show. Of course, the home base for all things football and nonsense is thefanshow.com. You can listen to the show live as it airs every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right there. Just hit the live button. It should be right there on the homepage. There's also a football, nonsense, and fantasy tabs. Football, of course, has all the latest football articles from my great team of writers known as Team Fan Show. The nonsense is anything outside the realm of football. We do UFC, WWE, baseball, hockey, basketball. It's all right there, and it's usually a bit further and few between, but still we try to cover it as best we can depending on what my writers are feeling for that week. And then, of course, fantasy. Brandon Raper, my man, fantasy guru, the tight end whisperer. That is his tab right there, because he does all of our fantasy work, and he has done a phenomenal job. And if you'd like to contact the show, get in touch with us, you can always leave comments on any of the articles, and you can write me, Richard, at thefanshow.com. I keep it simple. So should you. So hit me up if there's a topic that you'd like to hear discussed. If you'd like to be a guest on The Fan Show, that is the best way to do it. Now then, as far as if you missed any of tonight's episode, there's also an episode archive on thefanshow.com, and it is linked through SoundCloud. So SoundCloud is a place that you can go to subscribe to the podcast if you can't listen live, and then we're available on iTunes as well. I have a YouTube channel where all of these episodes post in their entirety immediately following the live broadcast, and that's for YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud as well. We're available on iHeartRadio under the podcast section, and then, of course, I broadcast to you live from where? Spreaker.com. So there's so many ways to listen to The Fan Show. I don't know how you haven't yet if you've been looking to do so. I mean, we've got you covered. So many bases. One of them is bound to work for you, maybe even more than one. But don't forget, you can catch replays of the show the next day on WBLZ Sports with that sports app that you can download either through Apple or Google Play. Go and look up WBLZ Sports, because they've got balls and The Fan Show and football and nonsense, and it's awesome. I don't know why you haven't downloaded it yet. So there's how you can enjoy The Fan Show. How you can interact with me and follow me around in a non-creepy way is, of course, the Twitter at FanShowOfficial. That's the most active social media platform for me and the show. All the latest stuff is going to be there, including question of the day, funny quotes. Shout out to Aaron Coscarelli for the quote of the day. Tom Savage is not very savage. Thank you for that. And then, of course, any questions, comments, concerns, answers that you have for me, feel free to tweet at me. But, of course, with that, also links you to the Periscope that I'm on, and I tend to do either a preview or a quick wrap-up before and after the episodes for a couple of minutes while I'm out walking my dog, Sammy. Then if you're a Facebook person, we're pretty active on there as well, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, so go and give me a like. We could always use some love over there on that social media. And then, of course, you can follow along. Snapchat and Instagram both are found under The Fan Show. That really about sums up all the ways that you can follow and enjoy The Fan Show. So that will do it for this Thursday edition. I'll be out at Roos Field for EWU Football Saturday. Very excited for that. So I would suggest following me if you want to follow that action. I'll be doing some Periscope, some interviews, some post-game comments, all that good stuff this Saturday in Cheney, Washington for the EWU Eastern Eagles. Go fight, win! And that'll do it for this week, folks. Thank you again so much. And remember, best of luck to you and yours. Don't forget, we'll have all new episodes and guests next week. Go Niners! Welcome, Jimmy G. And remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.